Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, after reading about the devastation to the theatre community and the rise of the low-touch economy, I wanted to try and find a little hope for the future and maybe learn a little bit more about how technology is helping to create opportunities at this incredibly difficult time. For example, Broadway in New York is expected to be closed for the remainder of 2020. And we've got the same problem over here in the UK as well, down the old West End. Essentially, we have an entire industry and people's livelihoods are left hanging in the balance. But I think most of us want to get back out there and start enjoying life again, seeing live events. So I invited Micah Hollingworth from Broadway AI onto the show, and I want to learn more about how the company is using AI in a space that is typically technologically completely untouched. Broadway. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to the US so we can speak with Micah now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name's Micah Hollingworth. I'm the CEO of Broadway AI. We're a software provider, and we take the experience of purchasing tickets at that box office window, what one would call the analog experience, right? And we're converting it into a digital experience now. So that ability to have a conversation around tickets for a live event, place it anywhere online, digitally, that your fans may be. So that can be your website, that could be any one of the number of major tech platforms like Facebook Messenger, Amazon Alexa, Apple with their new Apple Business Chat, and Google with Google Assistant and their own business chat platform as well.
Excellent. And before we begin, I was wondering, could you just to bring everyone up to speed that are hearing about Broadway AI for the first time, tell them exactly a little bit more about what it is and the problems that you originally set out to solve?
Sure. So the commercial theater field is somewhat unique, although I would say that it is universal that purchasing tickets for live events is still a bit of a hurdle. It's not as easy as many, many other purchase paths that have been built now, either by retail or by commercial consumer products. So there's an opportunity to remove friction or improve the experience of searching and purchasing for tickets for live events. The Broadway space, or commercial theater in particular, has a unique set of circumstances in that the tenants, the shows, don't own the venues. So they are not only renting the theater, the location in which they're putting on the show, but they're also then working with a ticketing provider that doesn't have a direct contract with them. It has it with the venue owner. So that really makes, in many cases, the show's ability to have access to first-party data to be a real challenge because of how the contractual relationships are set up. So in using our technology, because the consumer is directly interfacing with us, we're able to provide our clients, our show partners, direct first party, really we're starting to call it zero party data because it's yours. There's nothing in between you and the consumer about everything they ask, everything they're inquiring about in terms of when they first arrive and are asking questions about the show or what the event, what is it that they're most keen to learn, and then what is it from those range of questions that then leads to a ticket search, and then of course the ticket search all the way through the funnel to conversion. So we can very specifically provide data that shows you each step of the way from discovery through to purchase, which is highly unique in that even if even if you were able to get that data from one of the major ticketing providers or ticketing sites, you still don't get that clarity that we're able to provide. And that if a consumer goes straight to a page that has a seating chart and now sees all of the seats and prices that are available, you may be able to get a heat map based on where they're moving the mouse and where they may be hovering or looking, but you don't really know that consumer's thought process through and what they considered before buying. And in the case of using our technology, you do.
And I've got to ask, what was the story behind Broadway AI, and what put you on this path? And did you have first-hand experience of some of the problems that you've mentioned, or was it something else that put you on this path?
Well, it was definitely a well-known challenge, for sure. My background is commercial theater, and I've been doing it for about 25 years. And I was working at Jujamson Theaters as their VP of company operations for about 7.5 years before I jumped to do this on my own. And during that time at Jujamson, I spent much of it doing business development projects. It's kind of a little bit of a greenhouse. Obviously, for the Broadway space being what it is, there was lots of interest to find partnerships and ways they could, any variety of companies could work with us. And so I fielded a lot of those calls and had a lot of meetings. One of those meetings was a company called Satisfy Labs. And Satisfy came in and showed us their AI-powered in-venue support tool. So the demo that they provided at the time was for the Oklahoma City Thunder, so that you would be in the arena, and due to location services with where the app was placed within the chat was placed within the app, fans would be able to ask just about anything about the experience at the arena, from where's the nearest restroom, of course, to where can I find a Heineken or gluten-free food, or how can I get on the Jumbotron, or in cases where necessary, escalate it to live support because they had an emergency at their location. We thought it was really slick and very cool, but our spaces, the Broadway houses, at a maximum are 2,000 seats. You can see all the exits. There's typically an usher within eyesight for, if not all of the show, the majority of the show. So we didn't see a use application for us in that way, but that was when we had the light bulb moment of, but wait, what if we took this and we put a little twist on it and actually used it to sell tickets instead? And that kind of started us down our path. We talked about it a lot internally at Jujamson. And in the end, the president and owner of Jujamson, Jordan Roth, was very supportive and said, Micah, you're so passionate about this, you should go out and do it, make it happen. And so from there, we raised some funds from the industry and purchased a stake in Satisfy, so that we're now a part owner in the company and have a point of view and have a say in terms of the product development and the direction that we're heading. And then opened up our shingle specific to live events and ticketing to bring it to market.
And here in 2020, of course, Broadway is expected to be closed for the remainder of the year. So I've got to ask, can you tell me more about the effects on the industry, your business, and how you and the industry are planning to overcome these challenges? Because it's been an incredibly difficult year, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It's been devastating. We saw it coming. So for us, we started seeing inquiries from fans about COVID and the potential COVID shutdown, or at minimum, what are you doing to keep the venues safe for me to come? We started seeing that in mid-February, and it started to build heading into March. So by the time the industry did do its shutdown and on March 12th, we knew full well that this was going to be for some period of time, and that the impact was going to be significant just based on the consumer behavior within the chat. For us, it's meant a time period to initially support the clients, because there was tremendous engagement and customer assistance required during those first 4 to 6 weeks, if you will. Just people with questions about how am I getting my refund or exchange? When are you reopening? Being able to field and provide immediate answers to calm fans and to lessen the burden on the phone rooms and teams for the ticketing providers in this case. We've then, of course, with having the time, if you will, we focused on the technology itself and improving it. So we've already rolled out several new features, including Notify, where you can, within chat, you can provide a cell phone or email address to get updates when shows are starting to prepare to put new dates on sale. And we've focused on updating and adding the additional channels. Most importantly, I would say, is Apple Business Chat and Google Assistant. So now for our clients, in working with us, you're able to appear or have a presence in this multi-channel world, which for those specific platforms, we think are going to be really powerful because of how they work with their integration with the operating systems themselves, meaning iOS and Android, so that the moment someone engages with you on their phone in our platform, you're now within their contacts. You have the ability to place stuff within their calendars. And of course, most significantly, you're integrated with wallets. So using Apple Pay or Google Pay as a method of payment, which is in most cases a simple either security code, a double tap, or your face ID, if that's how you have it set up for payment. And removing that friction is we think is the future, right, in terms of where mobile transactions in particular are going to go. As for the industry itself and what comes next, we are an industry of planners. There's endless discussions and committees from the Broadway League putting together a variety of scenarios and approaches for if, when, and how we could return. New York City at this moment it still has social distancing restrictions that would not or does not allow the commercial theater to reopen, even if it was in a limited capacity standpoint. But Broadway's been very clear from the beginning that even if it was a limited capacity, that most, if not all, shows would not reopen under those circumstances because it's just not economically viable. The focus right now is on the spring of 2021, with thinking being that over the next 2-3 months, there will be some more significant developments, hopefully a treatment, if not a vaccine, that would allow for some time for planning to reopen these shows, because all of them are going to be starting with essentially from scratch in terms of that most shows will not have had tickets sold into 2021 since we were shut down since March of 20. So there's a lot of work that has to go into not just selling tickets, but putting back together the teams to reopen those shows, because you have cast, crew, all your vendors. So it's going to be a tremendous job to piece it all back together. So spring of 2021 is what the industry is looking at right now. We're currently announced that there will not be performances through January 3rd. So I would expect more information and more plans to be announced later this fall.
And like you said, it really has been a devastating year for the industry. But if there are any positives to be gained, I think that it is adoption of technology and people wanting to do more with less is really starting to ramp up now. So with that in mind, can you tell me a little bit more about the latest technology developments on Broadway, especially in the last 12 months, and any future trends you're seeing there?
Well, the two biggest are around the transactions, some of those that I've mentioned, and the other being, of course, the attempt or the want to stream or capture the show to broadcast via streaming platforms. The latter is a little more challenging because of how the business has been built over the last 100 years, meaning that all of the contractual relationships, in particular with the unions, are structured in a way so that they really only contemplate live performances. So how do you envision a world where you can either capture and or live stream a show from a theater on an ongoing basis? I think that is something that will slowly really develop over the next 2-3 years. There's been major headway, though. You have platforms like Broadway HD, Broadway On Demand, and then the most recent announcement of Diana, which was going to be captured this fall and then broadcast on Netflix as forays into that space. So there will definitely be a move to preserve the live performance, but in some way be able to bring that performance in a streamed fashion to fans, even if it's in a limited basis or in a limited release. Certainly the power of Hamilton demonstrates the opportunity that's there. For us, our focus, as I had mentioned, is being on those in the channels themselves and being able to, with the major tech partners, tech firms that are offering these new platforms for businesses to connect and communicate with consumers, to be there, to allow our show partners and clients to be in those spaces and talk to fans in that way, because of the unique ability that they provide to connect and get information about those fans by doing so.
And of course, one of the biggest obstacles of any new technology or new solution is market adoption. So on the terms of adoption, can you tell me a little bit more about how successful you've been in getting people to adopt the Broadway AI platform? Or has it been quite easy because you're going to where people are? Would it be Facebook Messenger and where they're communicating? How challenging has that been?
So fits and starts, to be completely honest, right? Mm-hmm. When we first launched, there was a lot of, anytime you do something first, there's a lot of anxiety is too strong a word, but there's the skepticism. One of Broadway's sayings is, no one likes to be first in that space. Everyone likes to be second. We were able to secure a couple of show partners early on, Anastasia and Come From Away, which is still running at this point, to try it out. And in putting it up, the initial belief was, well, sure, you may get some traction, but it's just going to be young kids doing it, right? Because they're engaged with that. And since most of my consumers or many of my consumers are women 45 to 55, I can't see how they're going to engage with it, but we'll try it. And what we found consistently across the board since is that the demographics of those that connect with us via chat or via one of these platforms reflect the demographics of the show, the demographic makeup of the partner. So if your show is primarily women to 45 to 55, then that's what we see in our data. If you're younger audience, that's what we see. If you're now marketing or selling to people out of town, that's who we get. And because we're primarily on the show's channels that they are out there and promoting, meaning their website, their Facebook page, Instagram, those things, then that makes sense, right? But it was a crucial piece of evidence or information for our show partners to say, okay, got it. So there is a portion of my fan base, regardless of who they may be, who will engage in this platform. And what we saw in early days was somewhere between maybe 10 and 15% of the people would actually engage with the chat and ask questions and then search for tickets. And as time went on, as more shows were using the platform, we saw that percentage grow. It varies by show partner and by their audience, of course. But there's enough people engaging in that way that the data is then becomes actionable. Right now, you're learning information about what people are searching for that can inform strategies, not just to drive them to the chat to further improve that circumstance, but to drive them anywhere, even to the primary ticketing page site, if that's your preference. Very early on, for our first beta partner, we had a They had a question that people could ask about the cast album and to listen to specific songs on the cast album. And what we found was for one specific song, anyone that listened to that song or asked about it eventually went and searched for tickets. So for us, that was an immediate piece of evidence to go back to them and say, this is a song you use in all your music beds. This should be in your radio. This should be in your TV. What if you're doing promotions, you want to feature this song. This song leads people into the sales funnel. So it's that kind of zero-party data, as we're calling it, that we're looking to provide our partners so that they can maximize the opportunities that they have.
And one of the other big changes that I'm seeing out there is we're all increasingly looking for shortcuts or quicker, easier methods to do almost anything. For example, people are going home and speaking to voice assistants to manage their heating, lights, and even entertainment. But then also when you get a simple message on your phone, sometimes people think it's too much hassle to actually type out a message and, again, just send a voice message instead. So with all that in mind, I'm curious, do you think voice purchasing will change the ticketing landscape in the future too?
Oh, absolutely. We've launched, feels like so long ago, but it was just December. We launched the first Alexa skill for Broadway show for Phantom of the Opera, and it includes ticketing within the skill. So you can search for and purchase tickets straight from out of the skill and voice. Most importantly, there you're using the Amazon Pay feature. So you are truly completing the entire experience by voice. You don't have to go off and answer an email or go to an app to complete that purchase, which for us, most important in launching that skill, it had to be frictionless in that way. I think that the user adoption will ramp up faster than we expect on the voice platform for live events. One, because of current world circumstances. I can most certainly see venues when reopening using voice, even at a will call window, for someone to be able to check and have their tickets printed so that it's a contactless experience for them in that moment, right? Just walking up. But the real thing that I saw that most recently that really has opened my eyes and makes me say it's coming faster than we even anticipate was working with the Google Assistant platform, where it's built on the backbone of our chat, but it's entirely voice enabled. And their language interpretation skills, their ability to correctly ascertain what I'm asking is quite impressive and very seamless. And because you can go back and forth between typing or voice, I just think the consumers are going to fall into that really easily, and they may start on their phone or on their device typing for a search, right? Asking a couple questions, but then by the time you get to payment, even the payment experience can purely be pay it and you're done, right? By voice. Yeah. So it's most certainly coming, and those platforms are going to spend a lot of money to just continue to move consumer behavior in that way.
And if we dare to look under the hood at some of the tech side of things, can you tell me a little bit more about how artificial intelligence and machine learning and other technologies are being used for faster and more accurate responses for customers, especially when using conversational intelligence tools, because it's so important in that realm, isn't it?
It's very important. For us, when we started out, it feels, and it feels like so long ago, but it's only about 2 years. For ticketing in particular, we started in slotted conversations so that we were able to hold the consumer's hand through the funnel, if you will, and also provide them with specific instructions so that they could, so that we were successful in guiding them through and searching and at least seeing, if not purchasing tickets. What that did for us, beyond the consumer, the fan, aiding the fan, is it generated a ton of data that we have now fed back into the software, back into the machine, if you will, so that in this new version that we're rolling out over the next 3-4 months, the ability for the fan just to have a completely natural conversation will be there. meaning that the truly walk up to that box office window and say, I'm looking for 2 tickets this weekend in the front mezzanine for $150 each. And then we would be able to immediately interpret, search, and then serve up the seats closest to what that consumer is looking for them to consider for purchase. So in that circumstance, it's truly a one question, potentially maybe 1 or 2 sentences, but it's a one question. Here's tickets. And that's where you want to get. That's where you want to be. And we feel quite confident that we're going to be able to show that before this year is out. And certainly that's what the Google, Amazon, and Apple are all up to with their voice platforms in terms of providing that level of customer ease to search and then purchase. That's what they're all about.
And of course, it is too early to get excited for the future at the moment after such a horrific year for the industry. But is there anything that makes you hopeful for the next year ahead?
Oh, you're asking me at a hard time right now, just because the political landscape being what it is in the States, and an election in 80 days. So it does feel like there's still some significant brush we need to cut through to get to the other side.
Yeah, I
will say that I think that specific to the Broadway face, but hopefully for others as well, it's really reinforced the power and meaning of community. There's a great level of care that's being demonstrated by so many in the business, trying to look out for and take care of each other. Whether that means as a producer, you're taking care of your cast, crew, and vendors, whether it's you're in your cast and you're on meant to be on stage and you're taking care of your fellow castmates. The level of community and care has been impressive to see. I know that live events, not just Broadway, but live events will come back. We've had them since for over 2,000 years now. Yeah. But the lens in which we experience them and how we experience our social lives, I think, will be significantly changed. And it's just a question of is there a point where there's such comfort that we don't necessarily return back to normal, if you will, because this is now the new normal? Or how long does it linger in the back of the mind in terms of this is a new concern or something that we forever need to have as an awareness in the back of our minds moving forward in any public space setting? So it's hard to know.
Yeah, I think it will be always in the back of our heads. But and a lot of my friends were all the same and just itching to get out there, itching to travel, itching to go to live events and get some of the old normal back, if anything. But for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about the great work that you're doing, maybe help the community as well, or just contact your team, what's the best way of doing that?
So they can find us on our website, which is Broadway, but with a .ai at the end, or LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter as well.
Excellent. Well, I'll have those links to the blog posts that accompany this episode. There's so much I love about our conversation today. One, you're making it easier for people to buy tickets, and anyone that suffered with capture codes and ticking boxes on buses will know all about the frustrations there. But more than anything, I think, like you said, it's been devastated, the industry has this year. But that level of community, that level of care is so important. And one of the things I always say at the end of every episode is technology works best when it brings people together. And that's something that you're doing beautifully there. So I wish you the best to look for the future. When things do open up, I'd love to get you back on here and have a much more positive tale to tell and follow your journey. But more than anything, just thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
And that's how we do it on Broadway. I've always wanted to say that, but it's probably a very inappropriate time to do it because it is an incredibly difficult time for the industry. And I do want to try and support that community as much as I can. And I love how, as we're witnessing the rise of this low-touch economy, Micah has created something that enables Broadway guests to not only able purchase directly from an AI-powered virtual assistant on the show's official website, but also wherever the audience is, whether that be Facebook Messenger, Amazon Alexa, or wherever they are. So I promise you all, we will speak with Micah again when Broadway reopens. But I'm curious, for everyone listening, are you itching to get out there and enjoy live events again, or are you going to keep your distance? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear more. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. I genuinely want to hear your thoughts on this because I do have a bit of a history in the events industry, and I'm curious where you think it's heading and how you're going to help bring it back to life too. So keep those messages coming in, and I'll return tomorrow with another guest. So thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.